You're going to be held accountable by the rules of the game you choose to play. If you're in the game of life, whether you're in the game of life, whether you want more game, whether the game you're after is the Olympic Games in Paris here in 4 or 5 months, or the Tour de France, or the NBA Finals, or you're pregnant, or you're a type 2 diabetic, you're a type A personality, you're the greatest generation, you're the next generation. The game of life is if the game that you want to play includes physiological vitality, this is for you tonight. I do have the ability to hopefully render intellectual rigor for an elite athlete to say, cool, tell me more, or even a skeptical person tuning in. I appreciate the skeptics, the open-minded skeptics, to kind of poke the bear. What I'm going to share with you tonight is pretty simple, and it's really, you may not remember all I say, but if you remember how I make you feel to say, cool, tell me more, then we can advance the ball, whether it's closer together in partnership and conversation where all possibility occurs, or it's, that's good, carry on, best to you. So I'm going to talk about functional food performance tonight, and the advantages that you get when you move beyond macronutrient conversation, move beyond the multivitamin conversation to try to get support in filling in the gaps, and then beyond the science, beyond the intellectual rigor, where's there more impact beyond the truth and the science of it? And so we're going to dive right in. And athletes, I've competed in 2 Olympic Games. I know the brain. If it's not related to my performance, get out of my way. And this is why athletes tend to be apathetic about eating more plant food daily, because they don't quite understand how it produces human performance in their body. Now, conversely, if you're not an athlete, I'm not going to let you off the hook, because non-athletes in the game of life, a lot of times they're apathetic about performance, the word performance. And that's just a fancy word for results, for better, for protection, offense, defense, just optimizing your life, because they don't really understand how performance relates to their health and vitality. So whichever side of the spectrum you come from, it's sort of heads and tails. How do we get beyond sort of the conventional wisdom, the kind of the status quo conversation, the mass marketed conversation around some of the common things you'll hear around conventional conversations around food, diet, nutrition. And one of those is macronutrients. How do we go beyond macronutrients? Well, the train has left the station when it gets to elite athletics. The people that are trying to maximize the capacity of the human body at the International Olympic Committee level, the National Olympic Committee level, national teams, professional sports teams, world champions, Olympic medalists, the best athletes in the world are adapting to the conversation, because they're always trying to find those incremental gains. And funny thing is first principles, if you do first principles or fundamentals daily over time, it's the consistency of effort. It's the do over time where the competitive advantage occurs. It's beyond kind of the hype and beyond the sex appeal. And it's just kind of that boring sort of daily do that makes the gains, where you realize an advantage whoever you are in life. And that works in your marriage, at school, with your body, in your work, and so forth. The best example of human performance that I can think of is pregnancy. Like, that's human performance. Human performance can be better circulation for a diabetic, more energy all day, greater recovery for an athlete. So it spans across human physiology in a lot of different ways and shapes and sizes and forms. And so if you study the GOATs, like the best in the world in their particular sport, you'll find as they mature in their career, they tend to start eating more plant food. Why? Because they realize the importance of the gains that can occur once they get beyond carbs, proteins, and fats and calories. And food does 3 things in the body, keeping it very simple. And we're familiar with the first 2 things. Food at work in us fuels us, and it builds us. It fuels us for energy, and it builds matter. The building blocks of food, amino acids, fatty acids, proteins, and the likes. And these are all macronutrients, carbs, proteins, fats, and they're all caloric. They all contain calories. The third pillar, or the third realm of food at work in you, is the domain of micronutrition. And it has no calories, but it doesn't mean it's not important for you. It's actually critically important for your physiology. And what micronutrition does is condition physiological function, condition physiological healing, condition physiological durability, condition physiological fitness and peak state. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. There's kind of a spectrum of physiology, and it's always working inside of your body. And so one way to think about food, this is a different kind of visual, is macronutrients. What we see in the mass media and the marketing hype is sort of that above the water. It's really the carbs, proteins, and fats of the conversation, which is the above the water in this iceberg. But that deeper level stuff, we all know 80% of that iceberg resides below the water. That is the majesty of whole foods. It's the profound implications of nutrient density, the tens of thousands of nutrients that combine and provide just-in-time inventory for your body. It's the greatest biotechnology tool you have, is the food you put in your body. I call it nature's AI. It's the adaptive intelligence of all of this biochemistry to do work in your body, to condition physiology. And what do I mean by conditioned physiology? Well, this is just some of the systems, and it goes from, atoms and electrons to molecules, to cells, to organelles, to organs, to systems, and then you stack it all together, and it's all got to work, right? And what makes all of this work, what makes it perform on demand, cells either stand and deliver, or they crash and burn. And how that cell has the ability to stand and deliver or crash and burn is a function of its continually being conditioned, right? Mentally conditioned, physically, and conditioned with the biochemistry of food, right? The micronutrition of food. And this is what it can look like. So more micros, getting more nutrient dense matter into your body every day, delivers systemic advantages to the human body. And these are some of the areas where you can gain, where you can optimize, where you can advance, right? And so I like to think of the physiology spectrum as kind of on a scale of kind of 1 to 10, right? And if you think of your own body where you are, if you're an elite athlete, maybe you think of yourself as a 10. Well, you want to stay there. Maybe you're a 5 or 6 and you want to move to a 7, or maybe you're down at the 2 or 3 and you want to get a little better. How do you get those gains, right? And if you look through the spectrum, the poor physiology is on the left side of this spectrum, in the lower category, lower quadrant. And as you move through fragility, maybe chronicity to homeostasis, that's the entire medical paradigm. The entire medical paradigm kind of deals with 1 through 5. And getting you back to 5 is homeostasis. Getting you back to 5 is health. Now, health or homeostasis is historically been defined as the absence of disease. To me, that's kind of a pathetic or weak definition of the word, right? How can it be a stronger word? What's beyond health even? Well, beyond health is durable health. Having resilience in your physiology, that's durable health, right? Having fitness in your physiology, so you can have that vim and vigor and rigor, right? And then peak physiology, if you're looking for that as a particular state. Wherever you are on that spectrum, the gains across that spectrum from left to right, or from the lower quadrant to the right, however it plays out for you visually, the bottom line is all of these micro gains, right? Every little dot, every one of these yellow dots moving to the right is a gain. It's an optimize, and it's an advantage. It's a result. And that only comes through food, through the micro nutrition, through daily conditioning, through micronutrition or nutrient dense foods. And the rub in the modern world is we got to consume a decent amount of servings every day. It's kind of become an adaptive trait to get this, a functional skill, an acquired doing, if you will, to get to this level of eating minimum daily amounts of servings of fruits and vegetables every day. So just the homeostasis prevention of disease, 5 a day. Well, 90% of the people in the country fail to do just that alone. If you're off the couch doing stuff, health, durable health, fitness, athletics, it gets into the double digits. And so that rub, that disconnect, that gap, people try to fill and bridge the gap with tools, right? With aids, with support. And the poster child of support has been the multivitamin. Well, the multivitamin is kind of the functional equivalent of the minimum wage, right? It has nothing to do with optimal physiology. The whole paradigm of that model came out of trying to prevent diseases of malnutrition. Malnutrition sort of disease states, beriberi, scurvy, rickets. It has absolutely nothing to do with optimal physiology, but it is the mass media culture. So what's beyond, and this is where elite athletes are understanding what's beyond, these cocktail of molecules. When the best find a better way, they adapt. me say that again. The best in you. When you find a better way, makes sense, adapt, right? And here you're at the trailhead. You can go left, you can go right. This is kind of a visual. I help people understand the limitations of labels when it comes to kind of figuring out what's in the stuff that we're putting into our body. And if you're looking for an advantage, an ergogenic aid, and that's a fancy word in athletics to say, ergogenic is it enhances performance or stamina or recovery. It gives you an advantage, right? Having an ergogenic aid. Like some ergogenic aids are illegal, like blood doping. But how do you find an ergogenic aid that uses applied science and intellectual rigor? And actually, we know that it can do things in your body. Well, here's two options: supplement product and a nutrition facts product. What's the difference between that? Well, one's a supplement label, one's a food label. And if you look at this, the one on the left, the supplement label, looks like it's got a lot of stuff in it, right? 100%, 100%. We've been trained with milligrams, measured, quantify it. This is a cocktail of molecules. This is what a multivitamin is. The one on the right looks kind of paltry, kind of pathetic, not much in there. But here's the rub. These are the two products that are the actual labels. This is what would be on a Costco multivitamin. This is what you would get on a bag of apples you buy at a grocery store. And we all know there's more in that apple than what that label says. That's a FDA food label. This is the limitation of labels. You ever say that to your kids? Well, you got labeled something, get beyond the labels. There's a limitation of labels, right? We all get stereotyped. This is stereotyping this apple. Well, here's what's actually in the apple. And all of these phytonutrients, phytochemicals, metabolites, adaptogens, enzymes, they don't mean much in a day. They don't mean much in a week, but you compound effect. You do this over time. And that's when you get this hockey stick of gain, this advantage. And that is maybe unsexy, but it is applied science, right? So where's vitamin C in this, right? It is contained within the synergy and the symphony in its whole food form. So if you're looking for a way to find support, the question you want to ask yourself, is there anything beyond the multivitamin? Is that the best we can do? Well, it turns out there is a food, like supplemental food is very different than a traditional supplement. One's a not food-based molecule approach, and one's a food-based, food support-based approach. So let's start there. And how do we find and get the plant food support, let's say? Because that's the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet are plants. And here you'll see fruits and vegetables and berries, and you'll see powdered versions of those. And what is that, right? Plant powders come into play. This is plant matter. It's matter that matters. And I would say, where is vitamin C in that plant matter? Where is calcium in that plant matter? Where is resveratrol? Where are all of these molecules or nutrients that you've become familiar with over time because they get extracted out and promoted as a molecule in the traditional supplement industry. But here in plant matter, they're just, the best, the most important nutrient in an orange is an orange. The most important nutrient in a carrot is a carrot. What if you remove the water from that plant matter, those crops, that fruit, vegetable comes to mind here in this case, the beets? What's the difference between these beets and the beet powders? It's the removal of water. Well, what's left in the powders? Well, it's matter. It's nutrient dense plant matter. And functional food is a fancy word to say food on purpose. You're taking it for a reason. Like you drink coffee for a reason. You spice your foods for a reason. There are functional elements to food that you take for a reason. And in this case, this is a definition from the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the food-based professional organization, and plant powders are in that functional food category as something that delivers an advantage. And if it says that it delivers an advantage, it should be able to report to you and deliver to you some intellectual rigor. In that case, it's like the science of it. Is it actually working? And so the leader in this lane for the last 30 years has been the Juice Plus company. I call it JP Just Plants. It's across fruit powders, vegetable powders, berry powders, and more recently, 100% from Plant Omegas. They've pioneered their relationships with farmers for the last 30 years, heirloom farmers, organic farmers, Fifth generation farmers. They're innovator. They're best in class. They've pioneered the technology to render this powder. They are a functional food leader. They're best in class in terms of the lane of plant powders. And the bottom line is they're beyond organic in terms of safety. We have elite athletes using this. We've got best in class. Hang on one second. Hey guys, I'm on a webinar. Can you just be quiet? Thank you. So elite athletes, cancer survivors and thrivers, pregnant women. It is safe, it is simple, and it's just plants and it's just plant powders. It's non-GMO, it's NSF Sports certified. We got elite athletes, cancer survivors, pregnant women. And the idea is, what part of this don't you get? The fruit and the vegetable and the berries that are in it, or the encapsulation part. And that's where people kind of, the plant powders make sense. But then when you put it in a capsule, that's where we lose some people, because it kind of goes off the rails. Oh, it's just another pill. Well, the thing about the delivery mechanism of encapsulation is that it's capsule technology. I call it's a protective mechanism. Well, there's a couple things that degrade food: time, heat, and oxygen. Okay. And the capsules give an oxygen barrier to this nutrient dense plant matter. It gives it a protective coating so that it doesn't rot, it doesn't degrade. When you cut a banana, oxidative damage begins to occur, right? It preserves that oxidation from occurring on that plant matter. Now, that's the first advantage. The second advantage is it kind of gets rid of the taste, because if you think about beet powders or kale powders or cabbage powders, they can be a little nappy. And if you actually taste them, that can turn people away from actually doing it every day. So the tasteless form of it, that's the second advantage. And once you take away taste, then, oh, people can actually do it. And that the third advantage is the most important. Nutrition is only as good as your execution. It is only as good as you're doing it every day over time in a consistent habit, right? That's where the compounding effect kicks in. And because the taste is removed, and because it's easy to do, people do it. We've had people every day putting this plant matter into their body for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. I've been putting it into my body for over 20 years, every single day. Easy to do, mobile, it's transportable, it's easy. So the family of powders that the company has really become the best in the world in is the vegetable powder lane, the fruit powder lane, the berry powder lane, and then more recently in the plant omega lane, 100% plants, and then we have shakes as well. And so what we know about these functional plant powders, and when they get in the body, the prove it stuff, the applied science stuff, it actually proves this, like this is human performance. This is cognitive processing, working memory, processing speed. We know through randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trials that this powder gets in the body and these things occur. So that's one example. You can read the study. We know that it renders the microbiome fit. It brings fitness and durability and capacity to the microbiome, these functional plant powders. Another clinical trial. These plant powders have been shown to improve vascular capacity, endothelial performance. I don't know, which vessel do you want? The one that has the vasodilation and the ability to expand and contract, or the one that is not able to perform, right? And I don't care who you are, who wouldn't want the greater gain, right? Epigenetic function, and on and on and on. I call it kind of, you want all these things to stack up. You want this thing and 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 this thing across the network of your innards, your physiology, right? And it comes from sort of this compounding effect of daily micronutrition, tiny little microscopic gains that you can't see and you can't feel. Doesn't mean they're not going on. They're kind of subclinical, but they're always going for it. Now, why we know that this is the best in the world, beyond the fact that we've put more plant powders into humans than any other company in the world, is the efficacy, the published efficacy of speaking the language of modern medicine and modern science. Over 45 published studies, many of them are randomized and double-blind and placebo-controlled across journals, or you have to go in front of a committee to get selected. A lot of bedtime reading material here for you. So how do you get beyond the science? If the applied science, makes sense, well, the doing it part, I already mentioned it. It's kind of the game of gains occurs from doing good things daily over time, conditioning your body with plant powders over time. We are the best in the business at helping people do that every day over time. We're 30 years into the game. We're so good at it, from the intellectual rigor of it and the practical application of it, that we formed a partnership with the United States Performance Center in outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. And this is a center on the campus, and they are bringing in the best U.S. athletes in the world, the national team athletes in the world, on that center to train for the upcoming Olympic Games in Paris. And they did their homework on us, and they realized, wow, this is actually a practical tool that can deliver results to athletes, that makes sense, and that has intellectual rigor and science behind it. And so all these national teams make up, combined to form the U.S. Olympic Committee, working at this, performance center across all these teams. I'm sure we have between 100 and 200 athletes now using this functional food, daily as a performance protocol. And the protocol, you can see some of the athletes here. The protocol is really simple. Use the fruit powders, use the vegetable powders, use the berry powders, get them into your body every day. Use the shakes as needed, pre and post workout, right? And oh, by the way, these plant omegas, right? All of this stuff in Synergy is the protocol. It's not complicated. The bottom line is do it. How do you do it? Well, you do it. You just get it in. How do you get it in your body every day? You eat it, you consume it, you get it in. When should I do it? In the morning, at night? Just do it. However you do it. Like, what's the most important exercise? It's the one you will do. What's the most important way to do it? The one you will do. Some people take it with, all in the morning. Some people spread it out over the day. It doesn't matter. What matters is you're doing it consistently. When I got on Juice Plus 20-some years ago, the earth didn't move for me. I wasn't able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. It took 15, 18 months before I started to realize kind of these subclinical gains had a compounding effect in my body. I realized I was recovering faster. I had physiological durability. When I was an athlete, I thought of my body as a Ferrari. Now I just want to be a truck, right? I work with athletes. They actually need to be both. They need to be a Ferrari on game day, but they need physiological durability the other 99.9% of their life. They need to act like a truck, work hard, play hard, get up and do it again, right? That adaptive response, right? And so that's what we're finding. When you get beyond macros, there's more advantages in micro. If you're looking to find a better way, right, where the best in the world have adapted to, consider plant powders. And we are the best in the business, our brand. We're beyond the science because we actually help you do it every single day. So I'll leave it there. I would encourage you to get with the person that brought you here tonight. I thank you for your time. God bless. We'll see you on the field of play.